Welcome to The Masked Wrestler. The Masked Wrestler disguises the identity of 8 of America's top professional wrestlers in a single elimination tournament to determine just who will be the mystery opponent. On the line, a shot at the Independent Wrestling Championship. There's just one catch. If you're eliminated from the tournament, then you must reveal your identity. We have a distinguished panel on hand to try and determine the identity of some of these competitors. First, the overall mothers in the house. Give it up for Billy Dixon. We've also got the 2019 Breakout Star of the Year and former Independent Wrestling Champion, Chris Statlander. And last, but certainly not least, we've got the one, the only, the Brickster. That's not all, ladies and gentlemen. We have here to call all of the action right down the middle, IWTV senior official Chris Levin. And you want to talk about a 1-2 punch on the commentary tip? We've got Denver, Colorado, the man, not the place, and Dylan Hale. I'm going to be your host, Larry Legend. And with that said, let's get on to our opening tournament bracket.
I have been a professional wrestler for 11 years. When I found out I was competing in a tournament with an unknown identity, I felt it was a massive disservice to the independent wrestling television audience. Initially, I was petrified at the thought of competing against somebody whose identity I didn't know. With my opponent being completely in the dark as to what my identity is, he will not be prepared for all the tricks up my sleeve. Not knowing who my opponent is offers many disadvantages, such as I don't know who my opponent is. Size and strength-wise, I think it is almost an even match with my opponent tonight. However, I am much stronger, faster, and better looking confidently than I. My father used to live in an apartment building with famed Swedish director Ingmar Bergman. I have been to jail 2 times. I recently celebrated a honeymoon with my wife in Singapore. This is my opportunity to become the Independent Wrestling Champion. I've been a professional wrestler for a while now. My initial thought with my opponent's identity hidden is it would make it more of a challenge for me to study my opponent. Masking my identity benefits me because my style is already unpredictable, so to hide who I am makes it a lot easier for me to surprise my opponent. I look at wrestling with my identity hidden as a welcome challenge. I think me and my opponent match up pretty well physically, but mentally and experience-wise, I have no idea. 2 truths and a lot about me. I have a martial arts background in Taekwondo. I own a collectible Mike Tyson action figure, and I have a 4-1 MMA record before beginning training as a professional wrestler. Competing in this tournament means I can prove that no matter what the circumstances are, I can be the best wrestler on the scene today.
Are you ready?
Yes!
You ready? Reload! Episode 1 of The Masked Wrestler here at an undisclosed location. Maybe a mask location is what we'll call it. Dylan Hale's here with my dear close personal longtime friend DC, Denver, Colorado, here with me in the standing booth as we've got Gin Kai in the pink taking on Barf in the green.
Barf in the green.
I mean, you know, I guess that sort of fits. I mean, the entire concept of this show, Drew, of course, is sort of the interesting factor is determining who is who, but also figuring out how you can play a stylistic advantage underneath the mask where your opponent cannot see your facial expressions, cannot study you, cannot strategize for you. It's going to be interesting to see throughout this contest what both of these wrestlers have in store for us.
Sure, and it's going to be so difficult for the wrestlers themselves to prepare because they don't know who their opponents are. They don't know if it's somebody that they've shared a ring with. This could be somebody potentially having their first ever match here today at the Masked Wrestler.
That's a great point. We literally have no idea who these competitors are. We have no clue what their experience level is. Right now, you can tell that both of these wrestlers look like they're good technicians, so to speak.
Well, I don't know, Dylan, though. You got to think. You want to take a conservative approach. Nobody wants to make that first big mistake because, obviously, with a single elimination tournament, the less time you spend in the ring, the better it's going to work to your favor if you can get to the finals.
That's a great point. Of course, the prize here at the end of this, a shot at the IWTV Independent Wrestling Championship, the biggest prize in all of independent wrestling. Nice head scissors there. Barf, if you look at from our vantage point, it looks like he's got really that applied almost perfectly.
Yeah, Genkai, a little bit slow to find a counter.
Yeah, referee.
If he or her is able to do so.
That's a good point. We have no clue at all who is underneath these masks, so to speak, here.
Maybe you don't, Dylan, but I have a hunch, and I'm going to be spending the next few matches to try and maybe do a little unmasking of my own.
That is not our role here. Our role here is not to speculate, it's to try to call the action, keep up with what's going on in the ring. Nice roll through there by Genkai, kind of discombobulating Barf. Never thought I'd say that on commentary in my entire life, but here we are.
See a little wear and tear to the left arm of Genkai, trying to shake it out, maybe get a little bit of feeling back in. Barf Genkai seem to be similarly matched. We don't know the difference in experience. We don't know their backgrounds from where they trained, and neither they.
I don't know, Brickster. They both seem technically sound. What do you think?
Oh, man. I feel like it could be Danhausen. Maybe not. Very evil.
Astute. Very astute, Brickster.
We have no clue if these guys came from 1,000 miles away or 25 yards, and that sometimes can play a role. Nice underneath, Barf. He's living and dying by that waist lock, DC. It's a nice technique there as he floats over. You don't see a lot of people wrestle out of a waist lock, and I wonder if that may be a weird sort of strategic decision that he's made to try to counter the obvious technical acumen of Genkai, which he's discovered here in the opening moments of this matchup.
Trying to keep a close eye on the action. Starting to connect a few dots, if you will, Dylan.
Not your job. That's what we've got our panelists for. Of course, our panelist waiting to see who the winner and the loser of this matchup is here in our first round match.
Again, we're seeing a lot of very conservative wrestling. You may not be able to get a submission from this position, but you can keep control of your opponent. You can kind of evaluate some of their strengths and weaknesses, and that was a mistake out of Genkai because Genkai, he or she rolled right into it.
Yeah, and he rolled right onto his back as well. No, referee Chris Levin right on top of the action there, looking to see if there's going to be submission. One thing, with these masks on...
We couldn't have put a mask on Levin?
With these masks on, DC, it makes it difficult sometimes for a referee to make a decision because you can't... A verbal submission, frankly, is harder. And on top of it, you cannot always see how much pain a person has experienced. Those judgment calls are going to be a little bit more difficult for Levin there. Nice escape. Look at this now. Genkai kind of loosening up that neck. It's hard to see. Is he showboating? Or is he letting us know that maybe he's a little bit hurt? Or is he playing possum? I don't know.
You got to think another factor in all of this, too, is that if you don't normally compete in a mask, I mean, obviously wrestlers usually strip down just to the bare basics, but to have your entire body covered, that's almost like a completely different element that you have to get used to. Not only trying to win the match, not only trying to defeat your opponent, not only having to worry about potentially two other opponents here at the Masked Wrestler. A lot of different factors. Very interesting.
And high stakes again with that IWTV Independent Championship opportunity looming. These guys are going to put forth their best effort, but like you said, you kind of have to be conservative in the early going. You know nothing about your opponent. Sometimes when that first piece of signature offense breaks out, you might have an idea and you may know what's coming next. So nice escape there, almost a British-style escape.
Well, that's one thing I got to say so far. Both of these wrestlers, I haven't seen any tells from. There's nothing that I'm picking up on immediately. And we'll get to the bottom of that by the end of this match. I guarantee you that, Dylan.
Absolutely. Nice tight cravat there from Barf. Rolls through. Not good, great escape by Genkai. Genkai back up to a vertical base, and he's really, I think he's sticking to that arm. I don't know if he feels like he's identified a weakness or if that's just a point of attack he's comfortable with. That'll be an interesting thing to watch, not only in this match, but going forward if Genkai's able to get past Barf, which he may not be able to, especially if Barf continues to control the pace here.
Well, there we go. We're starting to see kind of a definitive advantage in the favor of Barf. Staying one step ahead, a little bit more power.
Nice roll through there by Genkai. Oh, steps up on the ropes.
Oh, now that's a telltale sign of a luchador.
You're right. That's somebody looks like somebody with lucha training. Good observation.
But maybe Barf is as well. Very evenly matched, Dylan.
Very much so. Double kip up there. Kind of a little bit of a face-off here, to the extent that you can face off with somebody you can't see. I mean, I get a mask off. I don't know what to call it.
I mean, you're going to wonder, maybe, I mean, if these wrestlers remember the experience of sharing the ring with somebody else that's in this tournament before, if that may give them an advantage, having a better memory.
Oh, quick cover! 2! Oh. Now, that was not the best ring positioning. I noticed Barf's very close to the ropes there, but
that's kind of a veteran move. That's kind of a veteran move to be able to get to the ropes before he can get pinned.
That's a great point. Maybe this is somebody that's more experienced, perhaps, than some of the other competitors in the tournament. Barf, a nice back roll out of that. You don't see that every day out of an arm bar.
But that helps you position yourself away from the ropes, also try and get better leverage. But Genkai is still really pressing on the arm. Spoke too soon. Oh, my God. Now that was a bit of a cheap tactic. Not one that I'm not unappreciative of.
Definitely questionable off the top. Big gets in the ring. Didn't hook the leg. Did not hook the leg.
Yeah, but that didn't look like unfamiliar territory being on the top rope for Barf in this match.
It really didn't. And utilizing the entire ring as a weapon, very, very smart. We just noted that he had been smart enough to position himself by the ropes. We think I should add. Not only that, right afterward, smart enough to use the ropes to his advantage as an offensive weapon.
Well, Genkai's not going down without a fight, though. Interesting press. Oh, look at that bridge up, though. And back into the cravat.
Yeah, he's sticking with it. You know what? That's something that we've seen here. Barf is living and dying with that cravat, and it looks to me like Genkai has chosen that arm. So it's almost like a contest of what's the better strategy? I don't know. What's the better application of the hold? I don't know either.
We've seen Barf come off the top. We've seen him been able to find counters for Genkai. We saw that cheap move with the rope across the throat. Still, though, controlling the advantage. I'm going to say, I think somebody like Barf, as silly as the name may be right now, it's going to be somebody with over a decade of professional wrestling experience. This is not a newcomer.
Again, trying not to lean too heavy on. Oh, quick cover! Oh, look at that. That's the second time he's bridged out. There, DC. The second time he's bridged out. And an excellent bridge at that. Tremendous technique. You know, it's difficult not to speculate a little bit in the sense of trying to find where somebody may have that comparative advantage. I think your idea that Barf may be more experienced is probably bearing itself out based on the action we're seeing so far.
Perhaps Genkai just has tunnel vision because Genkai keeps going back to the arm.
Oh,
right now, Genkai might be going to bed.
That's it. Referee Chris Levin signaling with those two fingers, letting us know, and that was very close.
I'm starting to get, the juices are starting to flow. I can't wait to see one of these competitors have to be unmasked here in front of a worldwide audience on IWTV.
And we are going to see it, and we almost saw it there. Look at that. He used his foot to pull his arm down off the ropes. No rope break, he says. I'm going to hit you as hard as I can instead.
Come on.
And you know, that's an interesting thing. It'd be interesting to see how the strikes are affected over the course of this with these wrestlers wearing different gear than they would normally wear. Nice drop kick in the corner.
Head to toe, having your hands covered, having your opponent's chest covered may not be in your best interest to throw a strike. But if that's what you're used to in a wrestling match,
that's two.
Yep. Over to the rope.
And that was the first time I think we've seen so far in this contest, DC, where Barf really, his ring positioning was a little off. He left his opponent in the corner. Genkai quickly able to reach that rope. If he's not there, that might be it.
Dylan, in some of these situations, you almost as a wrestler, despite your experience, have to be fighting against your best instincts, too.
That is an absolute.
If your opponent's able to figure out who you are, they may be able to solve the riddle, so to speak.
That's true. They're in a guessing game. No, but he could not even stick with the cover. Genkai could not stick with the cover there.
Good impact maneuver to maybe turn the tides, but not enough for the 3 count. Kind of almost a Trent Beretta-esque elbow. But I think Beretta's a little bit bigger.
Wait,
now you see an Olympic slam. Yeah,
what's going on here?
Is that
Kurt Angle?
It's Kurt Angle.
I think Kurt Angle's under the pink mask.
Kurt Angle.
Joking me.
Are you Kurt Angle?
Is he even contracted right? It could be. I have no idea. We're not supposed to speculate. That was.
Yeah, you can stay in that non-speculation camp. I'm going to see what's up here. Very spry maneuver out of Genkai.
Genkai now.
Going back to the arms. Once again, that's a mistake. You got your opponent down on the mat. keep him down on the mat.
Completely agree.
Sometimes, from a different position, you can get a different hold, but right now, Genkai in the eating end of an enziguri.
And that's why it's a mistake, because you put somebody back in a vertical base, and that can happen, but then you can also knee your
a big
opponent
flying
in
knee.
the face.
That could be any one of a dozen independent wrestlers right now. That's become a very popular move in the past few years.
Yeah, shades of the late, great Harley Race with that.
Ooh!
God almighty, Barf got all that. I mean, he got all that right in the brainstem, it looked like.
That's one of those turn your brain off buttons on the body.
Oh, man, he folded him up. Quick cover, left hook.
I think this is it.
Ooh, man. Ooh.
Genkai still managing to find a way to stay alive. Barf, almost apoplectic.
Yeah,
Can't get frustrated. You can't argue with the referee, especially if you're verbal, because that can be another
That's a
sign.
cue. That's a cue.
Your opponent may be able to say, I recognize that voice. I know who this is, and I know exactly how to beat them.
That's a cue, and a good point here is that, yes, our panelists are the official judges, so to speak, that they officially the people trying to guess who's who, but when you're in that ring, you're trying to guess who your opponent is as well to see if you can get an advantage. Nice.
If you get an advantage, you can move on to the next round. If you win the tournament here, you're going to go on to challenge for the Independent Wrestling Championship, one of the biggest prizes in our sport today.
This thing has broken down. We saw that technical wrestling earlier. That is out the window now. These
I
guys
don't
know
know either,
what they're
Chris. We're
fighting.
just-
Oh, look at that back elbow by Genkai right on the jaw. Oh, he's got his arm strapped. He's got his arm strapped.
think. Oh! That's going to be it.
What?
Two.
There we go.
Oh my God! Yay, pink!
Your winner here of our first round matchup, Genkai moves on.
Yeah, but let's see who's under the mask. Who's Barf?
Brickster, how you feeling? Do you have any idea of who that masked wrestler is?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, Larry. I'm quite confused. Like I said, I mean, they were dancing really good. I felt it could have been Patrick Swayze for a moment, but then I realized that it would just be Swayze's ghost, so that doesn't make sense. Felt maybe it was very evil, Danhausen-ish, but to be honest, man, I'm completely mind blown. I have no idea.
Well, Billy Dixon, do you have an idea? Are you confident that you know who is the wrestler underneath that green mask?
I mean, I got a tiny little hunch. I mean, I've seen that aggressive knee before. I think this wrestler might wrestle in the Mid-Atlantic. I'm not exactly sure because like a lot of wrestlers utilize knees these days. But very aggressive, very, very aggressive.
Well, I know that you've been around the block, Billy, and right here, the breakout star of last year, Chris Statland, former independent wrestling champion herself. Are you confident you know who's underneath that green mask?
No. I made a lot of observations, and none of them correlated to a single wrestler in my head, but I made a guess anyway.
Well, guess what? We're all about to find out just who is underneath that green mask. Now, we've already gone over the rules. The losers must reveal their identity, but before we get to the identity being revealed, let's go to our panelists for their final guesses. Chris Statlander, who do you think it is?
All right, well, Larry, let me tell you. My final conclusion? Simon Cowell, because green was mean. No? Are you sure? Are you sure you don't have a British accent? I quit.
I think Simon Cowell has a really bad back right now, so I don't think he could do all of that wrestling. Let's go to
Hey, you believe in your dreams.
Well, duly noted, and I will, Chris Statlander. Let's go on to the man in the middle, Billy Dixon. Who do you think is this masked competitor?
Well, I mean, you were like kind of cool in the beginning, and then you had like a bad attitude, and like, I don't know, maybe you were the bad boy from Jersey?
Are you Joey Janela? It is not Asbury Park's own Joey Janela. I'm sorry, Billy.
Bull.
It's all right. We've got one last panelist. Brickster, who is this?
Who's the Grasshopper? Well, that's a great question. To me, I think you're from Chattanooga. I think you are Mr. Scenic City himself. He can wrestle. He can definitely pack the 1-2 punch. My guess is the man, number one, Jaden Newman.
And it is not Jaden Newman. Our panelists gave their guesses. None of them landed on the mark. You know the rules. Let's find out just who this masked wrestler is. Logan Easton LaRue. That was the last competitor. I was thinking Danhausen. Well, Logan, you aren't going to be advancing in the tournament. Any words to say to our panelists, to anyone watching on IWTV?
It's a shame the powers that be at IWTV would try to mask greatness. It's a shame the people that make independent wrestling television would put a sheet over the Mona Lisa. Take it easy, Patrick Swayze. And I will win that independent wrestling championship. I think the match went poorly because I lost. Wrestling while hiding my identity was the largest miscarriage of justice in wrestling history, professional or otherwise. Before I pulled the mask off my face, I was thinking about the shame I would bring to my family and my friends knowing that I was not a winner. To disguise my true identity from the judges, I did my best to wrestle less as a showman, less as a gentrifier of professional wrestling, and more of a classic competitor, a gentleman within the sport. It was a mistake. I am positive I know the identity of the wrestler who defeated me. The man that defeated me in that match was none other To support me, you can find me on social media on Twitter at Logan LaRoux, LaRoux. But I don't even know if there's a point. I've had it with this.